Unmute both.
Okay, and then go over to the overlay.
Yep.
Okay, okay. Hello, my name is Charlene Garcia Sims, and I'm the Genealogy and Special Collections Librarian here at Rawlings Library. November is Native American Month, and today we have a real treat, a presentation called Mayan Teachings in the Time of Change. And backed by popular demand is our presenter, Eduardo Grego Gonzalez Ashkij. Eduardo is a resident of Southern Colorado. He was educated, trained, and initiated in Antigua, Guatemala for 3 years, and has been a student of the Quiche Maya science for 30 years. As a practicing Ashkij, he performs fire ceremony, water ceremony, and teaches the Xolquij sacred Maya calendar and how to use these teachings in our present-day lives. He is also the author of Yashel, the Giver, a new novel written to teach and tell a story that uplifts the human spirit. So welcome, Eduardo, and I'm going to remove myself and get you going, okay?
Thanks,
Thank you for
Charlene.
being here.
Sure, thank you. Well, it's really an honor to be talking about this particular subject today, and an honor to have all of you here with me that are listening and watching, or soon will watch. If you aren't live, you may watch it on YouTube later. I wanted to just say a short prayer, a Mayan prayer. Corazón de cielo, corazón de la tierra, corazón de aire, corazón de agua. Maltiosh, Maltiosh, Chelaka Ahau Mashimoni Nawalas. I'm going to talk today about a subject that I've been studying for a long time. And I want to use this as an example of some things that have happened in the past and actually have us present day human beings take a look at it and see what we can learn from the past so that we don't make the same mistakes again. So let's get on with the presentation here. Today's presentation is called Maya Guide for Living in the Time of Change, the Great Remembering. Again, my name is Eduardo Griego Gonzalez. I'm an Achki, a student of the Quiche Maya science for the last 30 years. I'd like to thank my two teachers, Tat Jose Coutinho, Achki, and Carla Cufino, Sacerdotisa Maya of Antigua, Guatemala. And I'd also like to thank my partner and friend, and also my teacher, Eileen Meyer. I want to start by giving thanks to the Pueblo City County Library for sponsoring these talks, as well as to the Smithsonian Magazine for information that's been recently published regarding Tikal and the Fall of Tikal. I want to also say that the Codex of Tikal, the Dresden Codex, some people call it, is also filled with a lot of the information that I'll be presenting today. So if you can get your hands on one of those and take a look at it, you'll understand how the Maya wrote their books, how they designed their books. And unfortunately, most of them were destroyed during the Spanish conquering of that land down there. I also want to give thanks to National Geographic and to Tikal National Museum of Archaeology and Ethnology in Guatemala City. Mayan Guide for Living in the Time of Change, the Great Remembering. I want to first start by talking a little bit about the Olmec civilization, the mother civilization of Mesoamerica, which began back in 2500 BC and started to close down around 400 BCE. Interestingly enough, a lot of people have said that they don't know exactly what happened to the Olmec people when they left. I am convinced that some of them did the same thing. Some of them went north, some of them went south. It's possible that they all just decided to leave and go somewhere else. Who knows? Only they know. I'll be talking about the Maya and tribes and clans that we call the Maya, the people of the Maya land. And they existed for over 3,000 years in Mesoamerica. I want to specifically talk about the major power in the Mayan civilization we call Tikal. And it survived, or it thrived, for about 800 years, as far as we know, maybe a little longer, and was very successful, a very powerful city, and I guess I would call them a power in that part of the world. Then I'll get into the fall of Tikal around 1100 and what really happened during that that collapse, that fall of that really powerful place we call Tikal. What happened, and what happened to the people? And what we can learn from this situation is really what I'm trying to get at here. What can we learn from these people that have lived successfully and thrived in this place we call Mayapan or Maya land or Mesoamerica for 3,000 years? The Olmec civilization, as I said, started about 2500 BC, and we're finding out that it may have been even older than that. But what they did is create a writing system, a numerical system, and the long count calendar that we refer to as the most sophisticated calendar in the world, probably. And that were all used by later civilizations that came in behind them after they left to keep track of the date, be able to communicate and write and put dates on all of the stones that they would carve using the long count system. And also discovered a way of actually pictographing writing so that you could read sound by using looking at what the picture looks like and sounding that out, and that was how they were able to communicate. The colossal skull that you see there was the first one that was ever discovered. I think it was discovered in La Venta way back when. I could give you a date, but I don't know it right offhand. The point is that there were 17 of these colossal skulls that were created by the Olmec that have been discovered. There may be more that we haven't yet discovered. They also were constructing grids into the earth. Over to the far right bottom of the screen, you'll see a grid that was actually uncovered by digging down into the earth 25 to 30 feet. And there was a completely beautiful sculpture there of stones that were electromagnetic. We now think that grid that were created, and they were large, huge grids all over that area that they were building, may have been used for using the electromagnetic energy of the earth. At least that's the latest information we think we have on the Olmec. Also, right up at the top center is the first stone carving of Gukumats or of Kukulkan or Quetzalcoatl. All of those names mean the feathered serpent, arriving in their world, in their land, and he's holding a little purse in his hand. We always wonder what was in that little handbag that he has in his hand. I just also added a couple of ideas of the sculptures they were doing out of basalt, which is a very, very hard stone. And yet they were masters at carving and quarrying the stones out of the mountains and then getting them wherever they wanted to go, which is another thing we haven't been able to figure out how they were capable of doing. Now let's move quickly into the people that we call the Maya. Basically, the Maya were clans and tribes of people who decided they wanted also to build structures, temples, and create a quality of life that was beyond anything that a lot of people were experiencing on the planet, anywhere in the planet at that particular time that they were thriving. Extremely advanced civilization, extremely advanced people. They were doing GPS, just the whole aspect of what they were doing using the stars and the sun and the planet for their buildings was just way beyond the technology that some of us even understand today. They were successful in staying there throughout somewhere in Mesoamerica, even after some of the major cities collapsed. And this Chichen Itza is now the seventh wonder of the world, is a temple that's there in what I guess we would call the Yucatan now. And this temple is a 365-day calendar system, but it's balanced perfectly with the earth and the sun, because on the on the spring equinox and on the winter equinox, or fall equinox, we have a movement of a serpent that goes up and down the staircase just because of the shadow from the stairs onto the staircase. So it's just an amazing an example of the technology that these people we call the Maya were advanced in. The ancient Olmec and the Maya actually mastered building with stone. They were creating aqueducts for running water all over their cities and their villages. In addition, they had figured out a way to filtrate out all of the bad substances out of their water. And now they were doing that at 2,500 years ago. We can still use that system today. That's how intelligent they were. So they were purifying their water as it was coming down a stream or down a aqueduct before it would go into their drinking water area. They were very advanced in agricultural techniques. In fact, now we're finding that some of the soils that are there were created by the people themselves so that the soil was good enough to grow and that it actually healed itself. They were also extremely advanced in a writing system. As I said earlier, they actually borrowed the Olmec numerical system that had a 0 and used that, as well as understanding astronomy and GPS. And they were building elevated causeways or roads throughout their countries, throughout their entire civilization. White roads were connecting all of the major cities, all without the wheel or the use of iron. Now we're gaining a lot more information about the Maya civilization because of a new discovery that's called LIDAR. And this process using laser and radar is what allows us now to see beneath the jungle growth. And this process actually has given us a lot of information on new villages that have been hidden, that now we're discovering them as new places to go and discover, that were there for 1,500 years, that were flourishing. And some say that there were over 15 million Mayan people living in the area of the Petén, which is the jungle near Tikal. Some Maya elders have said that the Olmec and the Maya have actually been in Mesoamerica for over 13,000 years, and that many of the temples we see now were built on top of other temples that were originally built by the Olmec, the mother civilization of Mesoamerica. This is what LIDAR actually looks like from above, and you can see that as this technology is being used, it actually allows you to see the structures that are below the trees. So now they're discovering thousands, literally thousands of new villages and cities and temples that are in and have been hidden by the jungle. This is another example of the Tikal from the air using the LIDAR. And this is what Tikal, the Grand Plaza of Tikal, looks like today. I've been there 3 times, and every time I walk into the Grand Plaza, or even in the Mundo Perdido, which is the other side of the trees there, it's just the most amazing experience of feeling that there was an extreme intelligence that was living on the planet at that time to build these structures the way they did. The one that we're seeing in this photo here is actually called the Temple of the Sun. And then when we look the other direction, at the opposite end is the Temple of the Jaguar, the Balam, or the Temple of the Jaguar. And that's what Tikal looks like now, and it's usually filled with thousands of tourists. This is a model that was done by, in Guatemala City there, and one of the universities was helping them create it. It's in the Museum of Archaeology and Ethnography. Get that word, that's a hard word to say. Ethnography, right? Anyway, the point is that this model shows the buildings, the structures that were all around the 2 reservoirs that they were using for their drinking water. And the little circle that's red there shows that it was the kitchen, where the kitchen was located. It'll make sense once I get into this a little bit more, but keep in mind, they were using a filtration system as this water was coming down the slopes down into the reservoirs. So that water was pure when it was in there ready to drink. And this is a tighter shot of that because I wanted you to see that these temples were close to the reservoirs, and that some of the people were actually washing their dishes and sometimes even washing their clothing in there, which for thousands of years didn't create a problem. What did create a problem was this color red. This was one of their favorite pigments. And as they would cover their dishes and they would cover their temples and many of the buildings in that color red, as well as use it for their paintings of the walls and their beautiful sculptures that they would do. Now, this red tint was actually found on a stone they call cinnabar. And it was one of the reasons why this why Tikal did fall. This stone up in the top left is what cinnabar looks like. And as you can see, that's a beautiful reddish color that was loved by them. However, it created a pollution problem because it has high levels of mercury in it. And so all of the runoff from the buildings, as well as from the dishes and other things, started to accumulate in the drinking water ponds. And this is one of the reasons why Tikal did have what we call a collapse and a fall. Also, they had a lack of rain, 40-year drought from 820 to 860 AD, and then a 100-year drought from 1000 to 1100 AD, which is about when the civilization actually collapsed. The fall of Tikal was also due to some other issues that did come up. According to records, we now know that over that 800 years of Tikal being a successful city and thriving, there were numerous rulers. 33 is what the records show, which is about 24 years each. And 33 being a sacred number means a lot to all the Mayan people who study the ancient teachings. But the point is that not only was the water system contaminated and was getting people ill, there was the shortage of food and because of the droughts, and also they began to experience civil unrest because they blamed the rulers for the people getting sick, and also started up some political disagreements. So the fall of Tikal and other major cities was actually brought about by numerous things. Let's talk about the drought. We can also talk about the warring that was going on from village to village, although that didn't really take place until later on in their cultural history. The Mayan people were able to leave the big cities and go back out into the jungles, and small clans and small groups were building their own cities again and started building their own temples. And Chichen Itza was actually built by some of the people who left from the Tikal area, according to some of the things I've read. So the Maya people are still alive and well and living in and around Mexico and Guatemala City, all over Mesoamerica, down into Belize and down into Honduras. The point is that the falling of the civilizations, as we refer to them, the collapse, was it happened, but it didn't destroy their desire to live and to be more than just living day to day. They built successful cities once again, and this particular one, Chichen Itza, apparently in that area there's over 6,000 underground rivers and cenotes or pools of fresh water that allowed them to thrive in that area better than they were doing in the lowlands of Guatemala. One of the important things that was brought about by the village, the towns, and the people that lived around Tikal was that they were very advanced in understanding human beings and how human beings would have to move into the future. We will later talk about how a prediction was made that human beings would begin to wake up in the future, that they would have to go to sleep for a while. And the goal that many of the elders would talk about, how they were talking amongst themselves, saying, we're going to cover everything over with dirt and go to sleep for 500 years. And when it's time, we will awaken, we will remember who we are. And so now what we've got is the truth that really shows up is that we're in that time now. We're in the time that the elders said we would be awakening. So they left a codice filled with all kinds of information that is called the the Codex of Tikal, or the Dresden Codex. And it's got information about how human beings can maintain their integrity, how they can learn to heal themselves, how they can open their hearts and connect to the sun. All of this information was left so that we could remember how to do this again now, because we're in the time that they predicted. They left us the Cholki, which is the sacred calendar, and they have glyphs and tones that allow us to chant these sounds around a fire ceremony or a water ceremony or in every one of our ceremonies, so that we can keep our bodies balanced and our mind balanced with the energies that are happening all around us. They talk about the 23 enemies that human beings will have to overcome. And one of those enemies, of course, is hatred and envy, lying and greed. But the biggest enemy of all is fear. And we were being told way back then, when we read this information, how important it is to understand what it is you're fearing and how to overcome it. They also predicted that we would have many changes on the Earth and in the solar system and in the universe at this time, which I think we're all experiencing. Let's see, how are we doing on time here? Okay, 22, good. Now, the Cholki is sacred information that was not only written in the actual on bark, the interior bark of trees, so that it became a book, but it was written on the walls of the temples and inscribed in the stone so that we would not forget. And part of the information is in a book we call the Popol Vuh, which is a story about human beings being created here on planet Earth by people that came from the Pleiades and from our star ancestors. And this book reminds us of who we are and that it's time to awaken now. And this sacred Cholki, this calendar system, is specifically designed to keep our balance so that we can keep our balance and so that we can have our connection back to the planet Earth at this time. These are the 20 glyphs that they had built into the Cholki. Each one of those glyphs has secret information that you can learn. By the way, all those red lines underneath those are saying that the words are misspelled, and I know they're not, so I'm not going to change them, but I want you to know that each one of those names, when sounded around a ceremony, has a tone that resonates with a part of your body. And you have these amazing energies within your body that resonate to the sounds of the glyphs. Bats, a, ish, tzikin, akmak, no, tihash, kawak, hunakpu, imosh, ik, akabal, kat, kan, keme, ke, kanil, to, and zi. They also left information about the uk-ush, which are these principal centers of energy or internal forces of energy that are in the human body, all resonating to the 13 tones, the 13 numbers that you see there. The one dot is hun, the two dots are keb, three dots are oshib, 4 keyeb, one bar is hob, a bar and a dot is wakib, a bar and two dots is wukub, a bar and three dots is washakib, a bar and four dots is belaheb, 2 bars is lachuch, 2 bars and a dot is hulachuch, 2 bars and 2 dots keblachuch, and 2 bars and 3 dots is oshlachuch. The reason why these numbers are important is that in addition to the sounds resonating with these energy ports, I would call them cosmic portals that are in our body that resonate with sound. How they knew this and how they programmed it into their teachings was amazing, because everyone would sit around a fire ceremony and chant the tones and the glyphs. And that's how they passed it down generation to generation. And all this information later became printed and into the book we call the Popol Vuh, as well as in other codices that we're finding now around the world, the Dresden Codex. So as you can see, what I've done is taken each number and explained what each number stands for in these teachings. Oneness, everything. Duality, polarity, balance, and choices. Rhythm, movement, action, and integration. Stability, balance, complete, order, measure. Empower, fingers, toes, work, payment, karma, dharma. Flow, time, space, ultimate stability, the spiritual path, your destiny, the stairway up and down between earth and heaven. Wukub, the reflective, see both backwards and forwards. It's the material world that we're all living in right now. They would refer to as Wukub. Washakib is the number 8, balance, justice, harmony, male energy, the hunter, the solar body that we all have within. Belaheb, female energy, great cycles, strength, intelligence. Lahuch, manifestation, complete, cooperation, justice, law, universal laws. Hunlahuch, dissonance and resolution and power. Kablahu, understanding the family, the community. Oshlahu, completion, ascension, natural power to transform, the transition that everything is possible. Now, why are these numbers so important in teaching our families, our people, and all of us human beings about it? Basically, it's because everything they talked about and looked about into the future, they always predicted based on the long count that was actually created by the Olmec and then used by the Maya and other peoples. So that on their monuments, on their stelae, you would find these dates, this information. And people have talked about the end of the long count, and this is the only actual stele that was actually painted in this case, but was in stone, talking about the end of the long count happening in December of 2012. Now that's according to the Gregorian calendar. The Maya referred to it as 13 Baktun, 4 Ahau, 3 Cancun. So that means that that's the date that was predicted in the future, that we would have the end of this period of darkness, that we would actually move from the time of darkness into a time of light again. So at the end of the 13th Baktun, when it was finished, it said on that stone that Balamahal, the Jaguar Lord, will become Lord, and that Balon Okti is the 9-step entity of period ending. So we're ending the 9th steps on the top of the pyramid, the 9 levels of evolution the universe undergoes as it's climbed to the highest state of consciousness. So you see how they were talking about things that were very important from a universal standpoint? It wasn't just about daily life. They were actually giving us information about at the end of this time that according to our Gregorian calendar was December 21st, 2012. However, because the Gregorian calendar is based on the birth of Christ, it's possible that it may have been just December 21st, 2019, or may even be December 21st, 2020, the month that's just around the corner here. But it represents the end of the 9 levels of evolution that are occurring in the universe, and that a new era of time would begin here on planet Earth, that all beings on planet Earth would awaken from the sleep, that the great teachers would return. This is what it looks like in the calendar system. So you see on the left, you see the little seashells that represent 0, and the top is Ashlahu. So it's Oshlahu Baktun, or 130000. And the day, the sacred day of the calendar, is Keyeb Akpu, Keyeb Hunakpu. And it means the day that the new sun is born. So it's interesting that Oshlahu, in the number system that I just showed you, is the magical power to transform. For, I think they even use the word, transition, transmutation, when everything is possible. And it's about when human beings remember who we are and that we have this connection to all things and that everything is possible. So they say it's when human beings will actualize, when everything is possible and they remember that it's possible. and when we'll transform, because our DNA will be changed by Hunak Pu, which is the name of our sun, our new sun. So here's the question. If all of this information is based on the natural world, and it's based on teachings that have been passed down for 13,000 years, let's say, or let's say 3,000 years, if we know what the so-called archaeologists of today know about it, 3,000 years. There was a reason why it was all being passed down, so that it could get to us in today's time. It's because there's no question in their mind that they are saying to us that we are star beings, that we are light beings, and that Kukulkan, the feathered serpent, which they use that name to describe the Christ energy, will be awakened within each of us human beings. That it's not going to be someone who's going to come and save us, or a group of people that are going to come and save us. We are remembering ourselves, that we are the ones that will save us. We are the ones we've been waiting for. In addition, they also say that there are portals that are all over our planet and all over our universe that allow us to travel through this doorway, through the portal to the cosmos. And in part 2, which we'll be doing coming up in December, I think it's the 16th at 4 p.m. is what we wrote down today. We're going to be getting deeper into this Mayan portal in the cosmos and remembering our place in the universe, and how we can go through that portal by learning how to reconnect to our internal selves, to go within instead of looking outside of ourselves for answers. And according to the Ki'iche teachings, this time, now, that we're in right now, is the new beginning. It is the time of the new sun. Our new sun will activate our DNA, reopen our portal to the cosmos, and our heart is the doorway. So all human beings are prepared for the future, that everything we need is already within us. All we have to do is decide that's the choice we want to make, that we choose to go within and remember who we are. So with that, I would say it's time for us to remember who we are, that we are universal beings. And it's time for us to begin adapting to the grace that we really are. We are universal, meaning that we are connected to the universe through our hearts. And we're learning more and more every day about how we can activate the energy between the lungs, the heart, the endocrine system, the pineal gland, so that we can vibrate and use our real power to rise to a higher level of within, to ascend is probably the best word I can use right now, to connect back to all of the selves that we have within us. And it's time for us to start practicing this and start getting used to these powers, so that we can adapt to our grace and remember and relearn who we are. So that's why I call this presentation The Great Remembering. Our ancestors came from the stars, and they gave us much information about our cosmos, our planet, our solar system. They taught us a great deal about how we would awaken one day from this sleep. And they left us information on the stones and stories to tell and ceremonies to perform to keep us connected. They also gave us maize, corn, in the 4 colors in relation to the human beings that would walk the planet Earth, the 4 colors of human beings, the white, the red, the yellow, the black, and then the mixture of all of us coming together. It is time for us to remember that we are all amazing beings, no matter what our color of our skin is. And the return of Gukumats, Quetzalcoatl, or Kukulkan, the prophecy that the elders say was the return of the feathered serpent back into Mesoamerica, back into the hearts of the people there, that it is the source creator that is within our own being, and our own consciousness has to begin to understand that we have this already within us. And it's time for the spiritual evolution of humankind. So I guess I would have to say that a lot of people have talked about the second coming and how it would happen. I would have to say that it's already happened. It's within us. And all we have to do is just acknowledge that. In addition, I noticed that we're having a lot of anger and divisiveness that's being created and pushed out at us. I would call it really a plan to separate, to keep separation going, because when we remember that we're all one and that we're all connected, then we can come together in a society that makes sense, a society that's actually doing work to help one another, but also to heal the planet again, because that's really the key to the future, is to heal the planet, rise to our highest level, and become one as human beings. And that's what we are. All of us are human beings. There's no separation. We can't keep calling ourselves a political name or a color. We're all amazing light beings living in these physical bodies. So it's time for us to start preparing ourselves for this shift. Remember who you are. Remember the power of your words and thoughts. Be clear and honest and speak the truth. Talking out loud while alone activates the endocrine system and can open the gate to Coyopa, which is the lightning within the blood that the Maya talk about. Keep your body sacred by eating good, healthy food, drinking good, clean water, and using plants and plant medicine whenever you can to help your body, again, get reunited with the plant world and with the planet. Breathe with intention and in a rhythmic pattern, and choose love in every situation. So I want to, if I can get out of this and get back to my one, we're done with the visual presentation. So Charlene, can you click on my window there and get me back full screen, please? Well, okay, thank you. The essence of what we as human beings are experiencing right now in this society we call the United States of America. I'll use that because that's what I know. The essence of it is to first remember that we are all in this together, that it's only through separation and through fear or through the use of the 23 enemies that we forget and we go back to sleep. And when we remember that we are these amazing light beings, and we are here to experience living on planet Earth and doing everything we can to make our future healthy and happy, joyful, and where we're telling the truth to one another, where we're trusting one another again. Instead of doubting, instead of hating, instead of being angry at one another, which is doing absolutely nothing but causing separation, we must choose to love, to choose love in every situation is probably the best word to say it. And love is the strongest force in our universe. So I just want to encourage you, if you have any questions that you'd like to ask, if you want to just type them in and just send them to us, maybe we can start answering them now. I guess that's the essence of what I really wanted to say tonight, is that I see the division that's been created in this country. And I am so sad to see that, because I know how important it is for us to remember that there's absolutely nothing that can harm us. There is no death according to these ancient teachings. All there is transformation. And we are in the time right now of that transformation. So that's the essence of these ancient teachings that we got from the Codex of Tikal. And by watching these cities thrive for 800 years, for example, in the case of Tikal, but for thousands of years peacefully, without war, until just at the very end. But imagine an 800-year civilization that's successful, where people are benefiting and gaining from being in this civilization together. Compare that to the 244 years that we have been a country. That puts it in perspective for me. Now keep in mind, I'm very aware that the indigenous people that lived in this part of our planet, up here in North America, had been here for thousands and thousands of years also. We're just not aware of what it is they were teaching because they have chosen to keep it amongst themselves. And now that the information is being shared in the Mayan world, at least, we can share that with one another. And that's what I enjoy doing, is helping people understand that these ancient teachings were, yes, they were on the stones, that the stelae we call, the stories of the stelae that are there. They're all over the walls. They're with us now. And it's important for us to acknowledge that we're all here together on this planet, and that we have to do something to heal it, but especially start with ourselves. Start with our own heart and choose love in every situation. No matter what looks like is going on outside of us, we must start using our own hearts to energize everyone that comes in our present, in close to us, where they can feel that energy, and help others to literally broadcast the love from their own hearts out into the world, out into their world, out into their city, out into their society, and here in the United States, become a country of love again, a country that is based on love, that we can start teaching others, be an example, instead of setting an example of just the opposite. So I hope that we're all learning from these ancient teachings that we've just talked about.
Thank you, Eduardo. It's always so interesting to learn about can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. It's always so interesting to learn about the Mayans, and for so much history, we thought that they just disappeared, but they didn't. You talked about them, their water became, bad water, and they just kind of summarize what you said about what happened to the Mayan, because I think it's something that we've always wanted to know.
Yeah, there was a theory that the Maya had just disappeared. For amongst the people that live in Mesoamerica, they are convinced that some did leave from the top of the Pakwits, according to the Popol Vuh, which is the man-made pyramid, or the man-made mountain, I should say, but we know them now as pyramids. Many human beings right now are trying to decide, should I stay or should I go? And we're seeing the opportunity show up with the disease that's, there's always been disease on the planet. However, this particular virus that we have now is affecting a lot of us in the so-called, in the New World. We're all experiencing the emotions around people being afraid. And what we have to do is remember that it is the fear that is causing a lot of us to become ill. And overcoming our fear and beginning to build our immune system up through breathing and through eating the right foods and choosing love. We're learning so much about how important that one choice is, to choose fear and let go of, choose love and let go of fear. That is the key to moving into the future for all of us. And I'm convinced that the Maya did that. When they decided to leave, whether they left just the city or if they left the planet, it was because they recognized that it's always been a choice, that we can do that. And many of them, I think, went through portals. I'm convinced that some of the kivas in Chaco Canyon, for example, they have a great big T in there. I'm convinced that many people went there to experience leaving in large groups and through those portals, because we are more than our bodies, and our bodies are extremely important to us. And so we have a choice to take our bodies with us wherever we go, to be in body and to keep our form. And I just want to acknowledge that these ancient people had so much wisdom and so much knowledge that I'm convinced that what they're trying to tell us about today, about living in the present moment, is that we are important, and they've always known that we would be here. And it's possible that we are the ones that gave us this information in the past and passed it forward and are here now to listen to it through reincarnation.
Thank you. That's also so interesting. And we're going to continue this talk. Just give us just a little synopsis of what the next talk will be, and it will be on December the 16th at 4 o'clock. So please tune in. But just give us a little idea of what we can look forward to.
Okay. Well, you've heard me talk about the 13 tones that we talked about today, but you've been in some of the ceremonies that I've done. Others like you have come, and we use the sound as the toning to actually rebalance the human body and the mind. So sound is extremely important. So we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about the 20 glyphs and the energy of each glyph and what each glyph stands for, what it means, and applying the 13 tones and the 20 glyphs so that we'll do a chant with where we have each one of them and we can actually call out the tones and the glyph, which will help us all balance, even though we're all in our little homes with a TV screen in front of us as we're talking. We'll be able to do all of that. And that'll be in part 2. The other part that we'll be discussing in part 2 that's really important is that this understanding of the return of Bolon Okti, or this being that's returning to the house. Well, that being is obviously here already. We just don't know the name of that being in today's terminology. But the Maya say that it was happening, it would be happening now, and it is, I'm sure. And that each of us has an opportunity to balance our bodies and our minds and our spirit, and especially using the heart energy in conjunction with the brain and connecting the heart brain to the cosmos. We begin to vibrate differently. We begin to feel differently about everything. And that's what we'll be discussing, and actually discussing it in detail in part 2.
Okay, well, I'm really looking forward to that, and I know a lot of people are, and it's right before the solstice. Can you tell us a little bit about the solstice that will happen right after?
Yeah, the winter solstice takes place on December 21st. And I was having a conversation with Eileen Meyer the other day, and we were talking about how some of the people who are astrologers are saying that that is the beginning of the age of Aquarius. And I don't practice that kind of astrology, so I'd have to get more information, and I'll have that available on part 2 also. But if that's the case, then we've been hearing stories about how the age of Aquarius was going to be a major change or a major shift in life. And I would say right now that could be something that many of us will begin to start feeling, is something is changing, something is shifting. Many of us can feel it. And we have a comet in our night sky tonight, and it's been here since the 11th, and it'll be passing through. We're in a very important time. We're living in a very important time on planet Earth right now. And all we can do is support our children and our grandchildren, our families, in remembering how important they are to this planet. And the more we choose love, the more we will heal our planet, the more we will speed up the cleansing of the water, the cleansing of the air, and the cleansing of our own hearts and minds.
Okay, well, thank you. Like I said, I'm really looking forward to December 16th at 4 o'clock. And thank you for sharing all this information with us. We're so lucky to have you, close to Pueblo. And having studied in Guatemala, I know you just have been just a blessing to so many people here because of everything that you have shared. So thank you, and we'll see you on the 16th.
Great. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you, Charlene.
Okay, and I want to thank everybody for joining us, and please continue joining us for all our virtual programs. Have a good evening.